We're live, right?
We are live. So we are back from a break, and we are looking at age 546. This is not a bill that's in this committee. It's in judiciary, actually, and judiciary asked us to look at it because this committee usually looks at boards and panels and commissions and committees and stuff. That's and we try to keep on top of it. And so Senator Sears asked us to look at this. And what I'm going to do you have a copy of it? Do you have it with you there?
We have it.
Here's a copy.
I have an electronic copy of the official text of the bill as passed
by the House.
Is that what you're looking at?
Yeah, although we're looking at the unofficial, so we don't have to look at all those cross-offs.
Great.
Oh, I somehow already have cross-offs on
No, you don't.
mine. I do.
The 546
Oh.
is passed by the House.
Yes.
Let
I
me
think
see.
somebody talked to us about it. And asked
Yeah,
us
okay.
to-
So what I'm gonna do is go through what I think we talked about last week and then have people weigh in on what we talked about. So what we did was because this is as passed, there are number lines, line numbers, but under 5003E, the very first one, we thought it would, and this actually came from judiciary, some of these were from there and all, that it made it clear that the executive director of racial equity, it shall, and then put in parentheses behind that director, so that it's clear that that is the director we're talking about here when we talk about director.
Sorry. And who are you?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I
I'm
don't know who
sorry.
you are.
Yeah, perhaps I should introduce myself. So,
I'm sorry.
Hello everyone. Jay Green, they, them pronouns, racial equity policy research analyst for the Office of Racial Equity. I'm here on behalf of Susanna because she is, can only be in so many places.
She's up there. That's right.
Since the transcription service got it wrong, it's J-A-Y Green.
That service always gets.
Yeah, it's not Jay.
Yeah.
Well, let that bother.
Sorry. Your name is Jay.
Jay, correct.
Jay what?
Green, she said.
Green.
Oh, with an E at the end.
And I use they, them pronouns, and I'm here to assist in answering questions that you may have and
Great.
representing the office.
And we should introduce ourselves because you're not here very often. I'm Jeanette White from Wyndham County.
I'm Anthony Blaney from Boston.
Senator Kate Robinson, Chittenden County.
Brian Collmore, Rutland.
Allison Clarkson, Hampshire County.
Okay, so let's go through the suggested changes that we have, and then you can comment on them. So just on the first page there, when we were reading it in judiciary, it was a little bit unclear of who the director was that was being referred to. So just make it clear that the executive director of racial equality, and then put in parentheses, director shall oversee, so that it's clear from then on that that's the person who's the director. And then on number 1, cross off and may appoint employees as necessary, because the employees are defined at the end of the bill. There's positions created. So this judiciary thought it made it sound like the director could just hire whoever she wanted, but the positions are defined at the end. Then I think that's all that was there. I don't think there were any. Everybody else, if you have
Top of
What's
page
the
3 is the next one I have.
yes, so on the top of page 3, 512 under 5012 under duties, it says work collaboratively and have the assistance of, and then it should be state and local agencies and departments as defined in 5013A2. Because on page 5, it says that the agencies are going to be identified by the division. And so it isn't all agencies, it's all those that have been identified that will be, will cooperate. I don't have my marked up one here.
Next
sent
one's
it to-
top of page 4,
Okay, I sent it
under
to,
C,
no, the next one,
shall, may.
no, the next one is on page 3,
Oh, still,
number 7.
I have reported data, I don't have a cheat sheet.
Because we're, whether, some people may disagree with this, but we're eliminating the Racial Justice Statistics
Oh, right.
Advisory Council. So it would report to RDAP.
Right.
So then you go to page 4. And the same thing there is in consultation with the racial disparities. That's the RDAP, and then cross off in racial justice.
But before that, Madam Chair, I think in number C, we changed the may in the first sentence to shall.
Shall adopt procedural, oh yeah, I think you're right.
We had a question mark about it, but I think we were leaning towards making that shall.
That they had to do rules.
Yeah.
Okay, then, I don't think there was anything again until,
We crossed off whole swaths of this building.
then, yeah, on page 6 of the 5, present the data to RDAP.
I thought we just crossed that whole number 3 off.
No, I think we said they should present it to RDAP. They have to do something with it.
Okay, I just said. Maybe, I thought you addressed that piece where it went later. But maybe I'm wrong, so let's put that.
Well,
in
Eric,
on.
if anybody likes our changes, Eric will do his magic on them. Brian, are you having a hard time?
Yeah, I've got S120 in my folder.
It's in the folder, but it should be under the folder, 546. Correct.
Because I remember taking notes too,
Yeah,
and I don't know where else went, but anyway, I'm listening.
okay. So then, starting on the bottom of page 6, 5014, we completely eliminated
Right.
that council. So page 7, page 8, page 9, page 10, and down to 3 on page 11.
Yeah,
But then, and I was hoping that we would have had this before we did this, but we talked about how that the RDAP would have these duties and would have the responsibility of working with, and then it would be these individuals or communities on 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on page 7. The RDAP would work with those communities in developing what statistics needed to be collected. So that would be in there, and then would there's one other place where RDAP would be. And I thought that we should say in consultation with these communities, that we should use the definition from the Truth and Reconciliation bill that defined consultation, except it doesn't have to have with the cultural something or other. But that, I thought that was such a good definition because,
consultation.
yes, because consultation often means well, Brian, what do you think?
Right.
Now I've consulted with you, and here it says, a meaningful and timely process of seeking, discussing, and considering carefully the views of others in a manner that is cognizant of all parties.
That's great.
So if
Where,
we-
what page is that?
It's on the truth and on page
I know.
2.
Oh, on page 2 with the definition of consultation.
Yeah.
He's got, sorry, Galen,
Page 1.
Yeah, I've already got it on
He's
the
got
Printed
computer.
malfunctions, so-
and I gave him a copy.
But it was missing page 1.
He's,
So that, that's what they would be doing, and then they would be doing, page 5, the RDAP would be doing, oh no, that's.
so
yeah.
sorry, where, because I was sort of focused on consultation, where are you inserting consultation here?
Well, what I said to Eric was, put someplace in here, in place of the advisory council, put in here additional responsibilities of RDAP, and put in here that they would be working in consultation to identify the statistics that needed to be collected, because they're already doing that.
Right.
And that in consultation then with these communities or these individuals that have specifically been facing eviction, violence, criminal.
So the individuals on page 7 would be consulted if we added the consultation.
Yes,
Okay.
they would be the ones, the individuals or communities would be the ones that would be consulted with.
Okay, so we're keeping the.
But
this
don't,
list of
he would completely reword it.
Got it.
So that is, and then of course you wouldn't need pages 8 and 9 and 10 and down to 11. And then, and then what I did put in there, we didn't talk about this, but I did put in there that RDAP could appoint subcommittees made up of RDAP members and members of these communities, just to work on that one, just to help advise RDAP. And then so I was going to take out the per diems, but left that in then because they if those subcommittees were working with RDAP, they might need to have per diems. So you'd have, they might do a subcommittee or they might not, but they could do a subcommittee that around people who were moving to Vermont as an immigrant or refugee. They could have a specific subcommittee around that on collecting data, but it would be up to them to do that.
So where are you adding the ability to do subcommittees?
Under RDAP definitions. Don't look in here because it's not gonna be here.
So I'm giving up.
It's,
Not just
it's section 5014. 5014 would be
adding
replaced,
these things.
would
Yeah,
be
got it.
replaced by giving additional responsibilities.
And Eric already has these notes.
I sent them to him this morning,
That's
and
perfect.
so that was what we thought, because and the reasoning that we came up with was because in coming up with the kinds of data that needs to be collected and in analyzing and using the data, it really needed to be people who are used to using data. They can have the advice of the communities, but the communities themselves and the individuals themselves wouldn't be the ones that would be analyzing and implementing the use of the data. That was, did I get that right?
Mhm.
Sounds good. You want data meisters.
And RDAP has been doing this for so long that they really are, I think, and I know that we got a letter from Tom that said that RDAP did approve of this, but I don't know, I sent him a note and asked him if they would approve of this. So I haven't heard yet at all. And we've taken no testimony on this particular,
But also we
Um,
haven't got
change.
language back from Eric yet.
right,
so.
and I think that Sears is planning on doing this tomorrow in judiciary. So Eric will present the information to him. And if there are changes that we need to make right now in here, we can do that, but otherwise Sears will take it up. And so that was what we did in trying to kind of streamline it a little bit, not set up yet another advisory committee and have RDAP, whose charge is to do statistics, racial statistics in the criminal justice system and juvenile criminal justice system. So that was our suggestions. So do you have any thoughts on that, Jay? Or any, I see Susanna, I don't know if she's paying attention to us. Okay.
I am, Madam Chair. I apologize for not looking at you. I've been taking notes on what you're saying on my other screen.
Okay.
I did just have a couple of questions about some of these proposals. One is, one, I just wanted to highlight that as of last session, statute was updated to include the executive director as a member of the racial disparities panel, the RDAP. And I just want to highlight that in case it impacts the legislature's thought about who should be making decisions. In other words, if the work of this division is reporting to the RDAP and the director overseeing this division is also a member, I just want to make sure that nobody's confused about that relationship. The other thing is a question about community involvement. I do see that you all have suggested leaving in a per diem and a clause that permits the RDAP to create subcommittees to allow for that lived experience. I think if we're going to dismantle the advisory council, then I would probably recommend that we make that a little bit more definitive to ensure that there is lived experience going forward. I know that the RDAP, since its establishment, has been extremely inclusive and very open to listening to the community, but it might be good to insist upon it. And then the third thing is, I would just be curious to know how you envision the role with the Attorney General's office, since RDAP is advisory to the AGO as well.
Well, I think that I don't know that this division necessarily would. I mean, they would continue to be under the AG's office, but the way I think we looked at this was that this was a very specific division within the Office of Racial Equity, and it had a very, very specific task, which was to define the kinds of data that needs to be collected, and then to see that it's collected, and to then recommend how to analyze and use that data in policy making. And so the way I think we saw this was that RDAP would oversee that and would be collecting the data, working with the communities to figure out what the data is that needs to be collected, and then compiling it and working with ADS here on the systems for collecting and analyzing. And the recommendations, I would, since it's in your office, I would think that recommendations for how to use the data then in terms of policy would come from you, would come from RDAP to you, and you would make the recommendations. And I don't know if putting in that definition of consultation is enough to make sure that they really do have or we could say they shall set up subcommittees consisting of these communities.
I thank you for that. I know that the chair will be on in judiciary tomorrow, and perhaps perhaps I should leave it to him instead of speaking on behalf of the panel. Maybe there is an in-between in saying that the panel shall ensure the inclusion of community voices, but not necessarily mandate the establishment of subcommittees directly. That might be a good in-between, but again, I would probably defer to the chair for that, chair of the RDAP for that.
That I think that makes a lot of sense to, yeah.
Madam Chair, keep in mind that there's 5 community members on the RDAP.
Yes, yes, and that's why we thought it made sense to have the RDAP do it. And if there were communities that aren't represented, that they actually need to work also with those communities. But we're talking about the collection and analysis of data here, and then the policy recommendations would come through the Office of Racial Equity, I would think, because the division is underneath your office.
Madam Chair, can I pose one question to you on this, please?
Sure.
Thank you. So my question is really along the lines of, I'm curious as to why it is that you'd want to have, that we'd want to see this under the RDAP, because the RDAP, as we know, those are 13 appointed individuals, 8 across the agencies representing the so-called criminal justice system, and then the other 5 are from the communities. And then I guess we just had a 14th added in Susanna, thank God. So all appointed, and it sounds like this is an appointed body that will have oversight and supervision of state employees. To me, it really sounds problematic. So I was just wondering if that's completely fleshed out. And I was also wondering, the second part of that question is why this, as you know, we stood up the RDAP together, okay? We were talking about this stuff with data way before. Most of the data stuff fell on the floor when we were talking about this before, when we stood up the Racial Equity Executive Director's Office. So it seems to me, we knew in 2018 that the Racial Equity Executive Director's Office would have a significant involvement in data because it was included in the initial policy. I'm just wondering why we wouldn't want to defer to that and think about the fact that it might be better to have them report out of that office. And then finally, the third part of that question is why are we only talking about criminal justice data? You know, when we have so many other social determinants like housing and education, employment, health services, which is the reason why in Act 54, when we did the racial disparities, in the criminal and juvenile justice system advisory panel, when we initially did it, we did a second part, which was the Attorney General's and the Human Rights Commission's task for or their report on all systems. And in that report on all systems indicated disparities across all systems. So why would we not want to be standing this thing up in a way where it would be collecting data across all systems and not just only the criminal justice system?
Well, I can answer a couple of those things. First of all, I would love to see us have a statewide standard for all offices that they collect the same data in the same way. That isn't what this bill was. This bill came out of this bill is specifically around the criminal justice system. And it isn't putting the division under RDAP. The division is under Susanna. They have the Office of Racial Equity, and there's a division created here with 3 employees to our data analysts. And so she's the supervisor. RDAP is just an advisor to help figure out what kinds of data to collect and how to collect it.
Thank you.
They don't have any responsibility to the employees or anything. Susanna?
This is a great time just to remind the group that in addition to adding the racial equity director as an RDAP member, last year's bill also gave the director 2 slots to appoint as well. We have filled them with 2 fabulous people, very familiar with data, who are from communities of color and who are doing a great job. But there are those 2 seats, or 3 seats total, representing or appointed by the office.
Yeah, and so now we're adding through. We're going to build you an empire pretty soon. Do you want to be an emperor or empress?
No, I can't keep track of that level of paperwork, but I appreciate the level of faith you're putting in me.
Maybe we'll just give her a crown.
No, but yeah, you're right. And so I just want, but Mark, I would love to have, I think we would all love to see that, but this, I think we're taking small bites. And this is at least a start, and believe me, I think that this is a lot better than the way it started off 2 years ago with a whole bureau outside of state government and based on Connecticut's model with like 7 or 10 employees or something, had no relationship to. So anyway, that's what, and this is the way we got the bill. We're trying to fix it.
I appreciate it, Madam Chair, and thanks for letting me be a fly on the wall. I'm gonna get out of here, but can I just leave you with one more?
Sure.
Is that when I resigned from the RDAP in 2018, and mostly purely out of just protest, one of my frustrations is that they just weren't getting it done, and one of the things that was on the table was the recommendation to collect data. Recommendation for each one of the represented 8 components of the so-called criminal justice system. They would come back with these data points and you know, yada yada. Bottom line is that now it's 2022, and we're having this conversation. What I'd love to see, maybe we could talk about this in testimony, and I'll be showing up for testimony for this in judiciary. But I'd love, maybe we could talk about something that compels them to collect data. And to do it in such a way that it's appropriate, something that compels. And the other piece of that is on the flip side is because we've got the regular cast of characters and you got crime research group, yada, yada, yada. And we can't even seem to get, you know, our race traffic stop data orderly. If you go out to the crime research group's site today, and this was the same situation that you and I were in when we were having this conversation 4 years ago, Madam Chair. But you go out to their website today, what do you got? You got 79 spreadsheets. Some of them are, you know, formatted in different ways. Some are PDF documents. Most of them are not up to date. There's nothing compelling, folks, to actually go in and do this for the right reason. So data apparatus is good. You'll hear more of my testimony. I think it's tomorrow, the next day, whatever it is. Data is great. You know, talking about it, we spend so much time talking about it, we don't seem to get anything done because nobody really does anything. So if we can compel folks to collect these data, that would be really gratifying. That would make me feel really good so we won't have this conversation in 4 years.
Well, I think there are steps in that direction. And I know that, for example, all of the law enforcement agencies now, out of 73, 71 are using the same data collection system and are using consistent identifiers and language. And this says that this division will have the assistance of all the identified state agencies and local agencies. And the way, I mean, with the state agencies, we can have a heavy hand because they're state agencies. And with local agencies, we did put into the couple of years ago, if a local agency doesn't comply with state policies around fair and impartial and use of force, they both can't apply for grants from the state, and they don't have the use of the resources of the academy, which means if they aren't going to comply with the requirements, they won't be able to send their people to get trained at the academy. So I think there are some there are some carrots, but there are some pretty heavy sticks also.
Yeah, we're headed in the right direction. And I would also add, I don't know whether it's Gwen, maybe Karen Horn's gone, but the city and towns, League of Cities and Towns, because what we're talking about is Title 20, 2366 and 2358. That's FIP, that's the whole training and the policy training and data collection. So these are proactive and also very, I guess, definitive steps that these agencies are taking to reduce their risk. This is all about risk management. So it ties back into their insurability at the end of the day. So if you don't have FIP, if you're not collecting data, if you're not training your folks, then how can you go in and justify when something goes sideways? So I think there's a connection that's got to be able to happen at the municipal level that the League of Cities and Towns could probably be helpful with.
Oh, yeah, well, they're well aware of the policy that their law enforcement agencies will not be able to use the academy or apply for grants if they don't. And the other, it would be mostly law enforcement at the local level that deals with criminal justice.
I'm talking insurance right now, though.
Yeah, I know.
Something to explore later. I appreciate you giving me the space and the opportunity. Again, it's so awesome to see all of the senators hard at work, and thank y'all for what y'all are doing. Thank you, Susanna. Jay, such a pleasure to meet y'all. And also, yeah, that's it. Thank you, Gail.
Okay. Thanks, Mark. So when Eric actually has some language, it'll be a little bit clearer, I think, and Jay will make sure. Are you JAYE.green with an E at vermont.gov?
So there's only one extra E in my name and it's at the end of green.
Not at
Just
the end of
JAY.
JAY. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And as far as the data piece goes, I participated in a meeting of a work group, and that included some folks from the crime research group, some folks from the Department of Corrections, and they are working with project management staff at ADS to specifically define the data and to really work on the data structures and all the concerns that Reverend Mark just raised. So there is an active group of people who are working towards defining the data that is needed, towards standardizing it and making sure that it's collected in a in a systematic way across different databases. So we do have people working on that.
And that there is an appropriation in here for ADS to help come up with the systems and.
I believe that ABS is
Yeah, it's like 520,000.
So yeah.
And then there's the three
positions. And money that's
technology data analyst. You might, I don't know where you'll put these three people. You might have to hang them from the ceiling. Have a little mezzanine around your office.
No, Madam Chair, we don't hang people anymore.
I know, that's what I was saying. Let's not.
Sorry. Sorry.
We'll find them some office space. It's a
Yeah.
I didn't literally mean, I meant put their desks up there. But thank you for reminding me. Anything else? So what I'll do is as soon as Eric has this, I'll send it to Susanna and Jay and Eitan and committee members here so that, okay.
Sounds good. Good work.
And then I guess judiciary will do whatever it's gonna do.
Yeah. All right, great. Thank you. Well, thank you for having me and allowing me to introduce myself in person as the newest staff member in the Office of Racial Equity, and look forward to working with you in the future. I think I am going to retire back to the pavilion building. And,
Oh, is that where you guys are? Is that where your office is?
yes, yeah, we're on the fifth floor.
Oh, is everybody in the office, administration, office of administration? Department?
Yeah, we're part of the AOA, so we're on. the
Yeah, no,
fifth
I
floor.
know you are, so I just,
So, yeah.